name is Karen Nelms, and I am going to be presenting my action research study to my 5th grade friends at Alexandria Elementary. Say hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
And so we'll go ahead and get started. If I could get one of you to flip the lights off for me. Thank you. Alright, as I've already told you, my name is Karen Nelms, and I had to do an action research study with, or for my class, EED 678 Practicum in Elementary Education through the University of North Alabama. And my research was on the effects of technology-enhanced strategies on motivation of low-achieving students. The purpose of my research was that I had noticed when I was in the classroom, and I'm sure a lot of you fellow teachers notice, and my friends here, that students a lot of times, if they're not motivated to learn or they're not interested in the lesson, you're going to see them staring at the ceiling, you're going to see them putting their heads down, humming, or doing something else they shouldn't be doing. And a lot of times that's frustrating to me as a teacher as well as it is, I'm sure, to you. And I want my students to be able to pay attention in class, but also I really want them to be motivated to learn. And besides the fact that students can be bored in class, a lot of times it's difficult for the low achievers. They're not only struggling with the basic concepts, but they're also having a difficult time paying attention in class, which is going to ultimately affect their learning. So up here on the purpose of my research, I put students who struggle learning basic concepts seem to be unmotivated in the classroom. So it's necessary for us as teachers to motivate students or keep them motivated throughout the learning process. So I wanted to determine if, in fact, by incorporating technology into instruction, if it would motivate lower achieving students to engage more in their learning process. Research has indicated that utilizing technology into instruction promotes academic motivation. This conclusion was made by a teacher who participated in a study that involved the use of digital technologies in order to increase reading proficiency of students. The study was conducted to support the fact that technology use increases motivation and engagement of students. The purpose of this action research was to find out if technology does enhance the motivation of the lower achieving students in the areas of math. So by gathering data within a basic skills math class, I plan to determine if it does affect the motivation of the struggling students. My guiding question for this research was, what impact do technology-enhanced strategies have on motivation of low-achieving students? With my wondering in place, I had to decide which course of action I was going to take to find the answers to my question. So basic skills is what I decided to utilize because that is a small group of students that I'm able to work with extensively on basic skills in math. So for the method, I had struggling students which were assigned to the basic skills group based on scores from the Accelerated Reader STAR, which is a standardized assessment for reading, and now they've incorporated math into that, and teacher observations. The students were placed in specific groups based on their needs, math and reading, math only, or reading only. And the students attended small group instruction 4 days per week, Monday through Thursday, for 4 weeks, and each session lasted for 30 minutes. Instruction varied each day between technology-enhanced and traditional focused instruction. At the beginning of basic skills implementation, I told the students, the group that I had, I told them that 2 days of the week would be set aside for technology-enhanced strategies and instruction, and then the other 2 days of the week would be set aside for just the traditional method of instruction. The technology instruction would consist of computers, iPads, or other mobile devices, And the traditional methods would consist of pencil, paper, worksheets, or dry erase boards. My data collection methods were to have a pre-survey, keep a journal, and record in that different various behaviors. And also within that journal were going to be anecdotal records or anecdotal notes. And then I was going to give a post-survey. The pre-survey consisted of 4 questions, which were given to the students on the first day of basic skills. The journal notes consisted of notes taken during instruction, including procedures and activities incorporated, as well as daily reflections. The anecdotal notes, which were included in the journal, consisted of student comments, behaviors, and student-to-student conversations, as well as student-to-teacher conversations. The post-survey was given to check students' preferred mode of instruction upon completion of 4 weeks of instruction. When I gave the pre-survey, the students were to take that before even getting started because I wanted to find out what their preferred mode at that time of learning something new would be. And in the pre-survey, I noticed that over half of the students, actually 60%, I should say, of the responses indicated a preference toward the traditional teaching method. And 40% showed that they preferred technology instruction. So this is the pre-survey before we even got started. The journal notes and the anecdotal records were again the verbal communication of the students, nonverbal communication of the students, so I'm watching behaviors as we're in this group. Then the descriptions of student attitudes and behaviors each day. This was, did they come in excited, ready to learn on technology days or on traditional days? Did it change from day to day based on what the method of instruction was? And the description of the type of learning method was also recorded within that journal. As I observed each day when I was teaching the students, at times I noticed students were very excited, at other times they were quite passive. The behaviors did not appear to be directly related to a specific mode of instruction. So students could come in and be all excited one day and we would be working on the traditional method, or they might come in and be all excited and we would be working on the technology enhanced lessons. So for instance, if you're looking at this table, or for example, on dry erase boards, a day that we just did traditional instruction, the students' behavior was very enthusiastic, they were very talkative. On online games, one day we played an online game for multiplication, and this was the technology lesson, they were very subdued and quiet. Then again, traditional, very quiet and focused, whereas on this day, the online game for technology, they were excited and talkative. So nothing is indicative of the type of mode of instruction affecting the behavior of the students. When I gave the post-survey, it was after 4 weeks of instruction, and the post-survey showed that 35% of the students preferred traditional instruction as opposed to 65% who preferred the technology instruction. And if we're moving along, I can show you those questions that we had. So the comparison on the pre and post-survey questions, the questions were, think of a time you learned something new and how did you learn best? And the students could choose either by reading about it in a book or looking online. Here's their tally marks, the pre-survey, the post-survey. Second question, you plan to build a birdhouse. You choose to look in a book or look on the internet. Tally marks again, pre-survey, post-survey. The third question was you want to learn about a new game, so you will let a friend tell you or go online to learn. And again, here's their tally marks. And on the fourth one, I prefer a teacher who uses technology with discussion or traditional teaching with discussion. So if you're looking here, you can actually see the changes in the numbers of the responses that leaned more toward the technology instruction as opposed to in the pre-survey when it was more focused on the traditional method of instruction. So in comparison, if we're looking at the two models here, this was the pre-survey, 60% traditional, 40% technology. And then here is the post-survey. You can see the difference, which was rather surprising. There was actually a 25% increase from the pre-survey into the post-survey after the 4 weeks of instruction. 25% increase in the responses of the students who seem to prefer more of the technology method of instruction. During my learning and working with these students, which there were 5 students, 3 were girls, 2 were boys, and I learned a couple of things. One thing was students already had preconceived ideas of how they wanted to learn prior to basic skills. I think the students came in with, in mind, one of those methods or the other that they preferred. 1 out of 5 students preferred traditional methods. 4 out of 5 students preferred technology-enhanced methods of instruction. This could possibly have interfered with the final outcome on the motivational effects of technology on the group. Also, all students in this group did not have access to technology outside of school, which could be a reason for their motivation or lack thereof. For instance, 1 out of 5 had no access to technology, and 1 out of 5 had just recently, within the last 2 weeks, gotten a computer at home. So an example of this is that one student, the student who had no access to technology, I implemented a QR code activity that required students to scan a code with their device and find a multiplication array for the repeated addition problem that was shown. That student who had no access to technology outside of school appeared very intimidated and uninterested in the whole activity. On the other hand, another student displayed extreme enthusiasm and excitement over completing the activity. At times, he had to be reminded not to distract the others who were working on the activity. He attempted to go quickly through the activity and also had to be reminded to make sure he checked his answers before proceeding to the next code. So this is an example of students that didn't have access to technology, but their behaviors were totally different. So both students had very little experience with technology, yet both had very different behaviors toward working with it. In my professional reflection, I think that after going through the data and looking at everything and looking at the behaviors of the students, that even though research showed an increase in the students' preference for technology use, it also brought further questions that would warrant additional action research studies. For example, this particular research focused on technology-enhanced strategies in math. I would like to know if conducting the research in just math would be something that would affect the motivation of a student. And one thing that I would like to find out is if it is isolated to just a subject only with the way that the students are affected or the motivations affected. So I would love to conduct a controlled study, for instance, in the area of science, to have a controlled group where the students are learning the exact same type of information and they're presented the same information but through 2 different modes. I would have half the class that is learning just strictly through technology and the other half of the class who would be learning through the traditional methods of instruction. So it would be really interesting to find out if the specific subject is an effective way to measure a student's motivation. you ladies have any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, and happy researching.